South China Morning Post, 15th of March 2023, is India prepared to replace China as the world's economic power? That's just wishful reasoning, China claims. Another China would have catastrophic environmental harm and degradation, which the world cannot afford. Beijing imposed penalties, and Canberra put up a stubborn front. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese recently visited India's potential export market and replacement for Australia's economic ties with China due to internal concerns about the effect on the country's economy. The only resemblance between China and India is their combined population of over 1 billion people, which is like comparing apples and oranges. As the slow process of decoupling investments from China starts, the United States is urging its allies, like Australia, to stake a significant amount of money in India. India is increasingly seen by nations like Australia as a natural ally because it serves as a military and fiscal counterbalance to China. They contend that foreign direct investment is the most effective method to achieve this, allowing businesses to move from China to India gradually. The U.S. State Department referred to India in its 2022 investment climate statement as a challenging place to do business. It emphasized its protectionist policies, higher tariffs, and failure to change from Indian standards to international standards. China, however, poses an increasingly difficult challenge due to its IP threat and full-scale conflict with the United States and its allies. India is ranked 27th out of 39 economies in the Asia-Pacific region and 131st overall globally by the 2023 Index of Economic Freedom. In some business areas, the Indian government imposes equity restrictions on foreign investment. Beyond the limit on foreign ownership, these sectors are required by the government's FDI policy circular to have entities that are owned by/held with/ in the hands of resident Indian citizens and Indian companies, owned and controlled by resident Indian citizens, which remains superior to China. The maturity of India as an FDI hub has also been questioned because companies like Vodafone, Cairn Energy, and GE Capital have found themselves in the sights of tax authorities due to ambiguities in the tax law. China, however, imposes its laws as needed, in contrast to India, which upholds British law. Due to these actions, between 2019 and 2021, during the Chinese pandemic, India's FDI inflows as a percentage of the global total decreased from 3.4% to 2.8%, while China's share briefly increased from 14.5% to 20.3%. Companies like Harley-Davidson and the Royal Bank of Scotland downsized or left India in recent years. German retailer Metro AG sold its operations there after 20 years, comparable to the situation in China. Regarding proportional size, China's nominal fake gross domestic product in 2021 was $17.7 trillion, while India's was $3.2 trillion. India spends only 30% of its GDP, compared to China's 50%, and only 20% of its economy is based on manufacturing, as opposed to 30% in China. China can transport its products from factories to consumers efficiently thanks to investments in a domestic network of roads, airports, seaports, and train line and streamlining FDI regulations. This makes China an appealing possibility for investment. Not to mention the top-notch infrastructure that has changed the urban environments of the nation's ancient and new cities. But there is nowhere to develop in China, and the law of diminishing returns has kicked in. India has had economic success, but its sprawling metropolises are characterized by poverty. The former governor of the Reserve Bank of India, Raghuram Rajan, commented on the India-China rivalry, saying, "The argument that India will replace China is very premature as India is a much smaller economy as of now." However, he added, India is expanding quickly. Unfortunately, given its geopolitical gambit with China, India cannot live up to the expectations set by nations like Australia. India still has a long distance to go before reaching its full potential. When the economy is decoupling from China's, relying solely on its sizable populace to guide decisions is risky. The goals of the two nations are also different. China is transforming its economy to outperform the US and become a technical powerhouse. Conversely, India is trying to compete with China by positioning itself as a market-driven economy that uses its large population as a manufacturing base. As it has done in the past with the UK and America, Australia may simply be following a tried-and-true strategy of looking for great and powerful friends to look out for it and defend its interests. The world views India as a more reliable and straightforward business partner than China. But before conducting business in such a setting, careful preparation is necessary to meet the challenges and minimize the risks, which doesn't seem to be discussed much right now. India was Australia's sixth largest two-way trading partner in 2021, valued at 34.4 billion Australian dollars, 22.9 billion US dollars, and its fourth largest market for exports of products and services, valued at 19.3 billion Australian dollars, accounting for 4.2% of Australians' total exports. 267 billion Australian dollars, or 32.2% of Australia's total trade, makes Australia the biggest two-way trading partner despite China's trade war. In 2020 to 2021, 178 billion Australian dollars worth of products and services reached Chinese ports. Australia wants to divert $100 billion in bilateral commerce from a dominant China to India. Anyone in Canberra who considers India a viable alternative to China is conscious of the situation, and their decisions regarding geopolitics will benefit the country's export industries.